Hi, I'm Tom Dalton. This is the fourth video in a series of 4 videos about partnership distributions. In this video, I'll show you how to assign tax basis to multiple assets in an asset distribution. In the first 3 videos, we described the basic rules for partnership distributions, including current, liquidating, proportionate, and non-proportionate distributions. We know that there are 3 categories of distributed assets: cash, ordinary income property such as inventory and unrealized receivables, and everything else such as Section 1231 property and capital property. With only one asset in each category, allocating a partner's partnership tax basis to the assets in a distribution follows a straightforward process. The basis is allocated first to cash, dollar for dollar. The basis is allocated next to the ordinary income asset, but no more than the basis that the partnership had in the asset. If there is any remaining partnership interest tax basis, it is allocated to the Section 1231 property or to the capital gain property, only up to the carryover tax basis in a current distribution, but allocate the entire remaining tax basis if it is a liquidating distribution. Now it's time to see how to spread the tax basis around to multiple assets within the same category. For example, what if there isn't enough tax basis to give all the ordinary income assets a carryover tax basis? How do we spread the shortfall? Or what if there is remaining partnership tax basis in a liquidating distribution and all of the Section 1231 assets and capital assets are already at carryover tax basis? How do we spread the excess tax basis to these assets? Let's state the rules and then do some examples. First, there could be a tax basis shortfall in either the ordinary income asset category or the other assets category that prevents all assets from achieving full carryover tax basis. If that happens in either category, do this. 1. Pretend that all the assets in the category have a carryover tax basis. 2. Calculate the amount of basis shortfall that prevents this from happening. Third, reduce the basis of assets that have a lower fair market value than the tax basis until that asset tax basis is equal to fair market value. In other words, reduce tax basis to fair market value if fair market value is lower. Fourth, reduce the tax basis of all the assets in that category in proportion to their relative tax basis until the total tax basis of the assets matches the available tax basis that can be assigned to the category from the partner's tax basis in the partnership interest. Second, there could be excess tax basis in the partnership interest after allocating tax basis to the distributed assets. If this is a current distribution, then the partnership lives on. Then there is nothing more to do except keep track of everyone's tax basis in the partnership. But if it's a liquidating distribution, then one of 2 things can happen. If only cash and ordinary income assets were distributed to a partner, and the partner still has tax basis remaining in the partnership, then the partner will have a capital loss equal to the remaining tax basis. If any non-ordinary income assets were distributed to the partner in a liquidating distribution, then any remaining tax basis in the partnership interest attaches to those assets. If this happens, you may need to allocate the remaining tax basis among those assets. To do this, first allocate remaining tax basis to the non-ordinary income assets that have a fair market value greater than the carryover tax basis, so that the tax basis for these assets now equals fair market value. Next, allocate any remaining tax basis to all the non-ordinary income assets proportionally according to their new recalculated tax basis. Let's look at some examples. In this example, Ren and Hiroshi are equal partners in profits and capital, but for illustration purposes, assume that the tax basis in the partnership for each is different. The partnership has cash and 4 types of inventory. The partnership makes a proportional distribution of each type of inventory. Each partner receives 1/2
of each type of inventory. Wren's total tax basis in his 1/2 share of distributed inventory is equal to his total tax basis in the partnership interest, $105,000. His 50% share of each type of inventory can continue with the same tax basis it had within the partnership. Hiroshi has a $255,000 tax basis in the partnership, more than enough for his 50% share of each type of inventory to continue with the same tax basis it had within the partnership. After allocating partnership basis to the inventory, Hiroshi has a $150,000 tax basis remaining in his partnership interest. If this is a continuing partnership, nothing else needs to be done. If it is a liquidating partnership, then Hiroshi has a $150,000 capital loss. The remaining tax basis cannot attach to ordinary income assets. Let's do another example. This time, the partnership distributes $50,000 to each partner along with the red and yellow inventory to Wren and the black and blue inventory to Hiroshi. The distribution is proportional because both partners receive a 50% total share of the inventory, even though the potential inventory gain is different for each partner. This is what the balance sheet looks like after the cash distribution. There is no gain to the partners because they both still have a positive basis in their partnership interest. Next, Wren takes a distribution of the red and yellow inventory. A carryover tax basis for the inventory would be $100,000 for the red inventory and $80,000 for the yellow inventory, a total of $180,000. But Wren only has a tax basis in the partnership of $55,000, not enough to give the inventory a carryover tax basis. The first step in resolving this is to assume that red and yellow inventory has a carryover tax basis. Then lower the tax basis for each asset to fair market value if the fair market value is lower. In this example, the red and yellow inventory both have a fair market value of $50,000, so we lower the inventory basis of each to $50,000. The second step is to lower both the red and the yellow inventory tax basis proportionately until the total tax basis equals Wren's $55,000 basis available to the inventory. That's another $45,000 reduction in total, allocated $22,500 to the red inventory and $22,500 to the yellow inventory. When the smoke clears, the red inventory tax basis is $27,500 and the yellow inventory tax basis is also $27,500. The total tax basis in the inventory for Wren is now equal to prior tax basis in the partnership. His basis in the partnership after the distribution is 0. What about Hiroshi? Carryover tax basis for black inventory is $10,000. Carryover tax basis for blue inventory is $20,000. Hiroshi's $205,000 tax basis in the partnership interest is more than enough for the inventory to continue with a carryover tax basis. Since the partnership is not liquidating, Hiroshi's remaining tax basis in the partnership is $175,000. Let's look at an example where the partnership has no ordinary income assets, but instead 4 different parcels of land. Here's the balance sheets for this partnership. Let's assume that this partnership liquidates. The cash is the first asset distributed. After the cash distribution, the balance sheet looks like this. Next, we would distribute the ordinary income assets, but since there aren't any, we'll go right to the land. Assume that Land 1 and Land 2 are distributed to Wren. We don't need to worry about a disproportionate distribution, but if the partnership adheres to the substantial economic effect rules, then upon liquidation, the property must be distributed according to the partner's 704B capital accounts. That's $100,000 for each partner. If Wren takes Land 1 and Land 2, that's his $100,000 economic share of the remaining property. Carryover tax basis of Land 1 is $100,000. Carryover tax basis of Land 2 is $80,000. That's $180,000 in total. Wren only has $30,000 of tax basis in his partnership interest, so $30,000 is the maximum tax basis Wren can have in the land. In Step 1, we reduced the tax basis of land to their fair market values of $50,000 each. In Step 2, we reduce both of the properties proportionately by $70,000 so that the total tax basis of the land parcels is $30,000. Land 1 now has a final tax basis of $15,000 and Land 2 has a final tax basis of $15,000. What about Hiroshi? Carryover tax basis for Land 3 is $10,000 and carryover tax basis for Land 4 is $20,000. Hiroshi's tax basis in his partnership interest is $180,000. Since this is a liquidating distribution and the distributed asset is not an ordinary income asset, then he can add his remaining partnership tax basis of $150,000 to the distributed land parcels. To allocate the $150,000 to the two parcels, he first increases the tax basis of each parcel to fair market value. That's $40,000 for Land 3 and $30,000 for Land 4, a total of $70,000. Next, he allocates the remaining $80,000 of tax basis proportionally to the two parcels. Since each parcel's tax basis is now $50,000, he allocates $40,000 of additional tax basis to each parcel. At last, we're done. Land 3 has a final tax basis of $90,000, and Land 4 has a final tax basis of $90,000.
Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send me an email. If you like this video and would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.